Hi friends, in this video we're going to talk about storage types in Microsoft Azure. We will also discuss how redundancy can be achieved for your storage when you store your data on Microsoft Azure. So let's get started. Microsoft Azure provides you four platforms or four ways to store your data on the cloud. The first one is Azure Blobs. Then you have Azure File Shares, Azure Queues, Azure Tables, and Azure Disks. So let's discuss these one by one. The first one is blob storage. This feature is used to store unstructured data. Now, when we say unstructured data, what that means is the file types can be of different types. It can be images, it can be movies, it can be a text file, it can be a Word file. So when our file types are different, that's called unstructured data. So if a developer wants to store unstructured data on Azure, he's going to use Azure Blob Storage. So first we need to create a storage account, which I'll show you in my demo section. Under that, we have to create a container, and once you create the container, you can create the blobs and store your images, movies, or Word files and other kind of files. Next is Azure File Share. This works in the same way as we have file shares on premise. So it uses the SMB protocol to access the file shares. Now, if you create an Azure File Share on cloud, you can actually access the file share using your Windows, Linux, or Mac machines. So again, in this case, we first have to create a storage account. Under that, we create a file share, and under this file share, we can create multiple directories to store our files. So for example, if I have a logs or a tools directory, I'll store all my files related to tools and logs under that. Next is Azure Queue. This is used to store a number of messages for your application. The queue message size is 64 kilobytes, and one queue can have millions of messages, but that depends on the limit of the storage. So for example, if the limit of your storage is 2 GB, then you will be able to store the messages up to that capacity only. So this is used for applications where you have to take orders, or you need to give outgoing orders and incoming orders in the queue. So Azure Queue is used to store large number of messages for your application. Again, in this case as well, you have to create a storage account, and under that you create queues, and each and every queue stores different number of messages. So for example, if we have a queue for incoming orders, so all the messages that are for incoming orders will be stored under that queue. Next is Azure Tables. So we talked about unstructured data in blobs, but if your data is structured, for example, if you want to, if your application uses SQL database, then you can use Azure Tables storage type to store your data, like in case of SQL database. Next is Azure Disks. So when you create a virtual machine on Azure, whatever data you store or whatever operating system you install on that virtual machine gets stored in the form of virtual disk. So you can also create multiple disks, and you can also access or use these machines using your on-premise servers. There are two types of disks here. One is managed and other is unmanaged. So managed disk is something which is managed by the Azure. If you want to manage your own disk, then you need to go for an unmanaged disk. So in this case as well, you have to create a storage account. Under that, you can create your disks related to for operating system, data disk, etc. Now there are three types of further types of storage accounts that we have. Once we create a storage account, we get these options, and I'm going to show you that in my demo section. The first one is general purpose V1. It gives you all the features like blobs, files, disks, queues, tables, but it does not give you the latest features uh, that Azure provides. The general purpose V2 provides you all the latest features. It also gives you all the options to store all kind of data, be it blob files, disks, queues, and tables. Third one is blob storage. So if you want to specifically store unstructured data for your organization, then you will go for a blob storage. So a storage account should be between 3 to 24 characters, and your storage account name must be unique within Azure. So let's say my company's name is Rimtech, and I create a storage account using the same name. So the other person or other organization cannot create their storage account with the same name. So the storage account for your own organization should be unique on Azure. Now let's talk about how Azure provides redundancy for storage. The first one is LRS, that is locally redundant storage. Next one is ZRS. Then we have geo-redundant storage and read access geo-redundant storage. This is quite similar to what we discussed in one of my videos where we talked about providing high availability to the virtual machines on Azure. So let's talk about these redundancy types one by one. So first one is LRS. It creates multiple replicas of your storage within the same data center. It protects your data against disk or rack failure. So, it provides you only redundancy in case there is a failure of disk or there is a rack failure within the data center. Next is ZRS. As we know that Azure, in a particular region, we can have multiple zones, and in one zone, we can have multiple data centers. This is how Azure has built its own data centers across the world. So when you go for ZRS, it creates three replicas within the zone, in three different zones. So if one zone goes down, let's say one data center in one zone goes down, then we have the copy of our storage in other zones. So this ZRS provides you redundancy in case entire zone fails. Next is DRS, geo redundant storage. So it creates replicas up across two regions. So let's take an example of a region, West US or East US, or South India and North India. So when you go for GRS, Azure is going to create multiple replicas across different regions, so that if entire region goes down, we still can access our data. Next is read access geo-redundant storage. It's quite similar to GRS, but the second copy of your data would be read-only. So this was about storage. Now let's go to the portal, and I'm going to demonstrate how we can create a storage account and how we need to select different options based on the computing needs of our organization. So I'm in the Azure portal here. To create a storage account, I just need to search here, storage accounts, and I click on add. My subscription is free trial. Now I'm gonna create a new resource group just for storage. The name is already there. Let's create Rimtech storage. Now, as I said, the name of the storage account must be unique. So I'll give it the name. Location, the location should be near to the place or the area where your users are going to access. So you can select any location. Performance, we'll go for, there are two options here, standard and premium. Now, if you go for standard, your data will be stored on standard hard disk drives. But if you go for premium, your data will be stored on SSD. These are the fast hard drives. So I'll go for standard. Now, depending upon the account kind, I've already explained you what is storage general purpose V2, V1, and blob storage in the slide. So based on that, let's go for storage V2. And then from here, I can go for option of LRS, GRS, or RAGRS. So if you see, ZRS is not there because this Korea Central does not support that. So I'll go for LRS. Now access tier, we have two options, cool or hot. Now if you have an application where the data has to be accessed quite fast and quite frequently, you will go for an option of hot. But if your data is not being accessed quite frequently, then you'll go for cool. You can save some money over here in case you go for cool. So I'll go for hot here. Next is networking. Now, how do you want to access or which networks are going to access this storage? We get three options here. So public net endpoints means anyone can access it. Public endpoints, selected networks, then I need to define which virtual network is going to access this particular storage. Or you can have a private endpoint. So you can mention the IPs here, whoever wants to access this storage. I'll go for public endpoint. Then we click on advanced. If you want to transfer your data in a secure way, you go for this option. Large file shares, if your file shares are quite large, you can go for this option. But what we need to make sure, or we need to choose this option in the right manners, because all these options will be charged if you go for one of these options. Next is data protections, blob soft delete. So if your blob storage gets deleted, that can be recovered. Data lake storage Gen 2. This is used for storing large amount of data, like in big data and Hadoop. So I'll not go for that option. I'll just say storage, and I'll just tag it, just giving it number. So I'll click on review and create. It is going to validate all my selections that I've made. So if there's any error, it will not validate. Validation has passed, so I'll click on create. So as you can see, our storage account is created. The deployment is still underway. So this is how we create storage accounts in Azure. I hope you enjoyed watching this session. I'll be putting more video tutorials related to Azure and other technologies on my YouTube channel. Please subscribe to my my YouTube channel so that you can get notifications. And if you like my videos, please click on the like button. Thank you very much for watching my video.